Do you suffer from procrastination, self-sabotage? Do you find yourself starting and stopping goals over and over and over again? Well, in this video, you're gonna learn how to overcome your internal resistance and end self-sabotage once and for all. I'm Peter Schwartz, and this is Life Mastery Gym. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to get more life-changing videos like this one. So this is a topic that's actually very near and dear to my heart. I joke oftentimes that it took me longer to graduate college than Van Wilder, and I'm intimately familiar with self-sabotage. I'm intimately familiar with procrastination. When I initially found Life Mastery Gym, the reason why I had such major breakthroughs with this content is because working with Damon taught me how to align the things that were causing my sabotage with the goals and outcomes, and in fact the very person that I wanted to be. And you're gonna learn in this video how to take what's causing your self-sabotage and then align it with the direction you want. And when that happens, your self-sabotage disappears. The procrastination disappears, the resistance disappears, and then all of you starts to move towards what you want with all of your inner resources. And these are the same things that I use in my coaching practice daily to help people produce powerful transformations that last. And in order for you to do that at home watching this, I'm gonna recommend that you have a pen and a paper ready and that you're able to hit the pause button whenever you need to take some notes. So let's dive right into it. First, I wanna introduce the concept of values to you. Simply put, a value is an emotional state that's important for you to either experience or avoid. So we have two types of values. We have towards values. These could be things like love, connection, peace, happiness, right? Where you want to feel these and you want to move towards them. Most of your goals are driven by moving towards those values. And then on the other hand, you have away from values. These things might be discomfort. They might be rejection, embarrassment, might be failure. These are the states of consciousness that you want most to avoid. And what happens when we're experiencing self-sabotage is that we've unconsciously associated either the goal itself or the behaviors that will lead to that goal's achievement with values in a way that is holding us back. So for example, let's say that I work with a lot of small business owners, for example, and part of their job is to prospect. So they might need to pick up the phone and call on new business, but unconsciously they've associated picking up that phone with rejection, embarrassment, and being an annoying person. As long as they have those away from values associated to growing their business, they will always experience self-sabotage there. They will always experience a start-stop phenomenon. And you've probably experienced this in your own life. This is the reason why people start and stop diets. It's the reason why people try to go to the gym and then don't. Is that they're avoiding certain emotional states and trying to attain other ones. The key understanding here is that we learn to associate these emotions by making unconscious decisions. And most of the time, we made these decisions years ago and they no longer apply. Coaching and using the information you're learning on this channel is realizing that you actually have the ability to change any emotional association that you've built up until now. And so what you're gonna do right now, in order to change an area of your life where you've been experiencing self-sabotage, I want you now to either pause the video or very quickly, I want you to write down what is the goal that you want to achieve. Do you want to be fit? Do you want to make more money? Do you want to go to the gym more? Whatever that goal is, write down your clear goal. What is it that you want to do consistently? Maybe it's you want to stop procrastinating, whatever it is. And then underneath that, I want you to write what are all of the positive things that you get to feel once you've done that. So what are the positive emotions you get to feel when you've accomplished that goal? And you can do this by asking yourself, what's important to me about this? What is it gonna do for me when I have this? What do I get to feel once I've accomplished this goal, once I've overcome XYZ situation? And as you do that, you're gonna wanna really start to pay attention to when you start to come up with answers like these big emotional states like happiness, joy, freedom, love, connection, peace. That's when you know you're getting to a core value. And once you have a list of those, I also want you now to look at the behavior, the sabotage that you're engaging in, and I want you to write down what negative emotions are you avoiding? What are you avoiding feeling by engaging in that sabotage? So let's say, for example, you don't want a cold call. You might be avoiding rejection or embarrassment. Write that down. Or let's say you didn't go to the gym and you're saying, well, I just felt tired. So maybe you were avoiding the feeling of exhaustion, right? And once you write all that down, now you should have a list of your towards values and your away from values. Now, with that, I want you to get really honest with yourself. This is a moment of deep reflection, a moment that can actually be profoundly healing and transformative if you're willing to do the work. So if you're willing with me now to engage in this exercise, you may completely dissolve that resistance. And all you have to do that is I want you to take all of those away from values, and I want you to write down the reality of what this behavior is actually costing you. So write down all the ways that engaging in that self-sabotage is actually causing you to experience negative emotions. And what we're doing here is we're rewiring that mental association. We're essentially saying that unconscious decision we made, we're saying, no, look, actually, when I self-sabotage, it's embarrassing, it's humiliating that I've been self-sabotaging this thing for years. I feel like a failure by engaging in this. And if you do that, and you really be honest with yourself, and give this exercise your all, be honest, and then think about the consequences of this over the next year, over the next 5 years. I work with a lot of business owners who are perpetually mediocre in their business, and that's not a judgment on them, that's a wake-up call to say, if we do not change our self-sabotage, it will rob us of the quality of life we deserve. And I want you to get honest as hell about what that is for you. Is it costing you money, happiness, connection, love? Be honest right now, and the more honest you are, the more pain you're gonna associate with that sabotage. Now, once you've done that, I want you to write out how actually engaging in that behavior is going to fulfill your positive values, and really stop and associate yourself to it. So put yourself in that place of you being successful, overcoming that sabotage. Use your full mind and body. Associate into this exercise. Really think, once you've overcome that, once you've been at the gym for 90 days in a row, 6 months in a row, once you've been prospecting consistently, once you've been out there and you've conquered this problem for good, what do you get to feel? Step into it, feel it, write it down, and then write down the consequences of that for the rest of your life. Write down what that's gonna mean to you a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. How are you gonna feel about yourself? And then what do you get to experience emotionally once you've done that? The more thoroughly and honestly you do this exercise, the more you're gonna discover that sabotage disappearing. You're gonna find yourself naturally engaging in those behaviors that you want. Now, there's one more step. Having done that, I want you to imagine that you could go inside and ask that part of yourself that has been creating the self-sabotage. And recognize as you do this, that this self-sabotage is here for a good reason. It's here for you to avoid negative emotions, for you to experience positive emotions. It's actually here to meet your core values. So this might seem a little strange, but it works. And I want you to imagine that you could invite that part of you that's been causing that self-sabotage. And I want you just to ask it. First of all, thank it. Say thank you for trying to meet my values this way. And then explain to it that it's no longer serving your values. And explain to it that by taking those actions and achieving those goals that you've set for yourself, now you'll actually be able to feel the way you want to feel and avoid those away from values that you want so badly to avoid. And then I want you to ask for permission. I want you to say, would you be willing to help me find a new way to experience my positive values and avoid my negative values? And just notice if there's any resistance to that. If there's not, then what I want you to do is I want you just to imagine that you are now taking action in the way you want to. Almost like your positive values are pulling you into the activity that you want. And it's like your negative values, the things you're trying to avoid, are keeping you on track. So you might even be able to imagine how, where in the past you might have self-sabotaged, now, before you can sabotage yourself, you actually feel bad because you've changed that association now. And as you start to imagine that, just notice if there's any resistance or if this simply feels good and right for you. Now, if you discover that there was resistance, resistance is always a way to meet a value. So I want you again to thank that resistance. Invite it in and ask, what is your positive intention for me? And resistance can come in many forms. So one form of resistance might be, this isn't gonna work. And so you might ask, what is the positive intention of thinking this is not gonna work? And for me in the past, I would get an answer like, I want it to work. I want to actually make sure I make this change in my life. And then you keep asking, and if I do make this change in my life, ultimately what will that do for me? Well, then I would achieve the goal. And then if I achieve the goal, what does that do for me? Well, that allows me to feel freedom. And so then I ask that part again, and I say, would you be willing to change that response so that I could believe this will work and ultimately be more effective in taking that new action so that I can experience more freedom? And usually that will clear up the resistance. So that's how you overcome internal resistance. You identify what values are being met by the resistance, and then you align those values with the goals and outcomes that you want. It sounds simple, and it actually is easier than most people realize. And if you practice this, you will suddenly discover that the procrastination, the self-sabotage, the start, stop disappears. You'll naturally be able to move in the direction that you want to, much more congruently, much more powerfully in the direction of the life that you want. Make sure you comment in the section below. If you want to write down what your goal was, what your resistance was, what those values are, I will be happy to comment and help you navigate that resistance. It's a great way to get free coaching. As always, like, comment, subscribe for more life-changing tips like this. Take care.